My name's Malin, and in this video I just wanted to sorry, I need to like clip it on so then I don't start waving my hands around and that's just not. Yeah, that's right. And in this video I wanted to talk about adversity, being in a rut or a slump. And I'm sitting next to a plant. This is Damon. He's an avocado. He was born on Christmas last year, 2024. And I just thought it'd be nice to this makes me sound really weird. I just thought it'd be nice to talk to the plant also whilst I'm in this video. You know, just spend some time with it because I'm just kind of weird in that way. Like, you know, this is a plant that's growing, and eventually I'm hoping that it will grow avocados. You know, I need another one so then it can actually like, what's it called? You know, so then it will actually grow fruit, whatever, pollinize it, whatever it's called. I can't think of the word at the moment. And, you know, I think it's nice just to really take care of it and show that you care and love for these things because, you know, eventually it's going to like nourish me with avocados and potentially other people as well, which I think is nice. Anyway, to get to this video, sorry that was a really long intro, but I guess that just kind of got rid of all the people that don't really want to be here, that don't actually want to listen. So if you're here, I appreciate it. You know, these are just my notes that I have for this. Sometimes in life we just end up falling, you know, we have some sort of circumstance or some sort of set of events that kind of knock us down, or we just kind of wake up and we feel like really just depressed and down. And, you know, we all have kind of our vices and our temptations or whatever that we have to kind of fight, or like these habits that we've built up in the past that we can slip up into. And I've talked about this a bit in my past video, but I was kind of unwell. And I was unwell for like about 2 weeks, and I went through this whole range of emotions, and I ended up actually just filling in my days just with stuff that didn't really make me feel good. Well, it made me feel good in the moment because I felt so bored that I had to take up my time with things like, you know, watching TV shows, watching movies, playing video games, just eating junk food to just kind of numb that sense of dissatisfaction with myself and my life, because I didn't really want to face it at that moment. And I was feeling unwell, so I didn't have much energy. You know, I couldn't work out, I couldn't sing. I did a couple videos, but you know, I just had these crazy headaches and I just wasn't in a really good place, you know. And it's very tough to get out of this mindset because once you're in it, and I'm still kind of in it, I'm still trying to get out of it. And that's why I'm creating this video, because not many people document how they get out of it and showcase like, oh, this is where I've been, this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I plan to get out, and this is how I'm getting out, and I'm going to show you and walk you through it so you can see. The world, society is just set up for us to get hooked onto these things, you know, always diverting our attention with adverts, always trying to hook us in. You know, video games are just so far ahead of psychology and stuff. Like, we're only just catching up now, realizing how these guys just keep us hooked, you know, like with these little dopamine hits, having structure and having novelty in it as well, which is very addictive. And you know, it's just set up to kind of hook us in and then keep us in there, you know, keep us feeling just dissatisfied enough that we want to keep going back to it to come back and feel good. And you know, I'll talk a little bit about dopamine, which is something that I knew a lot about, and it's a whole different thing to experience, you know, because when you do these activities, you know, just like playing video games, like it spikes you up in dopamine, you feel good, but then you come down and you feel a little worse, so then you want another spike of it. And you know, it got to the point where I was like doing a lot of things. I was like playing video games, not just playing video games, I was like eating food, scrolling on my phone in between, and that's just like a lot of dopamine because I needed a bigger hit to just feel the same hit that I did before, when my dopamine levels were a bit more stable, when I was doing more productive kind of things with my time in my life. And so, thing to be careful about with dopamine is that the more kind of pleasurable activities you do, the more things that you stack, the higher sharper spike you're going to get, and the lower low you're going to feel afterwards. And it's so hard to get out of it. Like, trust me, I'm like in it now, and it just sucks. Like, all I wanted to do was just come home, eat whatever packaged food was in the cupboard, you know, cookies and just chips, and then just play video games just on my computer until I had to go back to work. But you know, I realized like I can keep going in this cycle. I can keep putting it off. I can keep saying, oh, I'll just do small steps. I'll just be kind to myself or whatever. But real self-love is actually just doing the things that you actually have to do. And so I was like, okay, well, if I just have to ride out this kind of difficulty now, all I have to do is say now in the moment, and then, you know, eventually I'll be feeling better or whatever. And so the more dopamine things you kind of do, the higher you spike it, the lower you go, and your baseline actually starts to drop and drop and drop. So you need more and more dopamine to get up to where you were going, but you can't reach that same high because your brain has adapted to get used to this dopamine level. So now, you know, you're just in this like kind of shit state where you feel bad, but you doing whatever dopaminergic activity. I'll use me as an example, like continue playing video games, continue eating junk food, and you do it, and you kind of like, it isn't feeling as good as it did before. I'm not quite getting that same kind of hit. I'm not feeling okay. I'm still kind of feeling shit, and I want to get out of this, but I'm just stuck in these habits. And whenever I stop and try to get away from it, all this negativity rises up, all this discomfort rises up, and I just want to go straight back into it. And that's like a very difficult thing to kind of get out of, you know. You know, we get into this momentum, you know, this little step, this little fault, this little slip just turns into this huge spiral of all these kind of bad like emotions and experiences that just kind of make us even feel worse and worse and worse, you know. It really like wears down our resolve for like getting out of there, and our courage really fades when we're like, oh, I guess life really is shit, I guess, you know. I'm just going to feel shit forever, so why don't I just maximize whatever pleasure I can feel at the moment, you know, until I decide to like end it, or, you know, it just really leaves you with this just kind of like this dark future, like you don't see a way out or anything, you know. And all of your focus is just on like pleasure, feeling good in the moment, you know, just trying to pass the time, because time feels like it sucks so much when you're kind of in this kind of state, in this adverse, slippery slope of slump or rut, whatever you want to call it. You know, hedonic adaptation is basically what I'm talking about here, is with like the more you kind of expose yourself to these kind of things, the more you do it, the more you adapt, the more you get used to it, the more you need to feel better. You know, you need more just to feel okay. I don't know why I have this note here. I'm just going to kind of skip over that. You know, but I can see now. I can see what I was thinking. So the labels that we put on things, kind of like this negativity of like, oh, I'm so bad for doing these habits, but we don't realize like the reason that you feel drawn to video games is because you're not getting that sense in your life. You're not getting that sense of growth, of achievement, of even the social aspect of it, or the structure of it in your life, because life is so all over the place and it's so hard to create structure, and there's so much doubt, and even if you have the structure, there's no guarantee that you're going to win or that it's going to be the right option. So basically, you know, rather than trying to face this kind of dark, scary, worry-filled, doubtful world, you know, you'd rather just have this kind of set way or whatever, you know. And what I want to say is that sometimes we kind of fall for a reason, you know. Like there was something in our life that wasn't quite working. There was some sort of system, some sort of belief, some sort of habit that we've been doing that didn't really serve us, and that kind of left us this kind of hole in ourselves that we felt like we had to fill with these other kind of pleasurable activities, you know, whatever. And if you're looking for like a way out of it, you know, you got to find the root cause of that. And for me, I was working way too much in a job that I hated. I didn't have any hope for the future. I wasn't making any plans. I was just kind of trying to get by, you know. All my life was focused around work, and then my spare time was just like, all right, I'm gonna do what I can. And you know, I stopped seeing progress in my workouts, and then I got sick and I've lost weight, and you know, that's really debilitating. That's really kind of off-putting. But I realized, like, my workouts, they started to become more this dopaminergic kind of thing, you know. Like, I was listening to music. It was my time to listen to music and take caffeine, like a pre-workout or an energy drink. And it became more about that than actually doing the workout. So I wasn't enjoying the workouts because I was focused too much on the pleasure rather than the progress in the actual workouts, and feeling my body, like feeling the movement in my body and feeling myself getting stronger and seeing the results with that, you know. And that's something to be very careful with, how you do things, you know. You should be doing one thing at a time, one focused thing at a time. And this is why so many people have like ADHD, or they just feel overwhelmed, or they just feel stressed out, or they just overwhelm themselves with too much dopamine kind of activities, that they just kind of feel numb, that they feel bad. And so my plan to move forward with workouts is just to work out, you know, just focus on the workout, do the workout, enjoy that, you know. When I'm recording the video, do the video, record the video, that's where my focus is, you know, because if you're spread out all over the place, you just feel like you're never really settled, and you've got all these things running in your mind, and that's not how we're supposed to work as humans. And that's why so many people end up having this ADHD, and they're like all over the place, they're scattered, and they're just, I just don't like being around those kind of people, you know. They're just like way too scattered, way too all over the place, and it's just like, well, man, just like chill, like there's not that many things to really worry about. There's only so many things that you should be focused on that are actually important to you, rather than like half doing the dishes, half listening to music, trying to have a conversation with someone. Anyway, I'm just kind of having a rant about that. I guess I'm just kind of triggered by that, which is something interesting. Maybe because I myself fall for that. So now we've kind of addressed the issue, we've kind of addressed what we should be doing. But another thing that I want to address is just this mindset shift, because it's so easy to spiral into these negative thought loops, you know, just to have the same kind of thoughts like, oh, this is just how life is, you know. Just like notice what your thoughts are, notice how you're feeling and how your thoughts and feelings kind of come together and how it makes your body feel, and then you feel tired, and then it's like, oh, you know, I've kind of been working hard, I deserve a rest. And that's just your mind, your body, working on these habits that are trying to get you back to that kind of dopamine, to try and get you that hit to come back up, rather than allowing your body to slowly increase its dopamine levels that have been so destroyed and so lowered just by all these activities that you're doing, that it's like, it's so hard just to go on a walk and enjoy it. It's so hard to have a conversation and enjoy it, you know. It's hard to have a workout without pre-workout and music, as an example of me, you know. And a good mindset shift to have is just to be focused on the opportunity, like, oh, I'm in this tough time, you know, I've been so strong to get through this, and I'm going to make it out, I'm going to be a stronger person for this, you know. Just having those kind of thoughts and starting to instill them and saying them over and over to yourself, like, I'm going to make it out of this, and then hearing those thoughts back, and then it's so interesting, like, when I just said that, then it's like, you can get through this, you can go through this. I'm like, oh, in my head, I immediately thought like, oh, I can't do this, I've fucked up so many times. I always keep coming back to this state of just feeling so shit, and just spending all my free time just playing video games late into the night, you know, just fucking up my health, eating whatever foods I feel like. Even though I've tasted that feeling that you get from like doing these things that kind of suck in the moment, but building momentum and slowly starting to see progress, and then feeling good for making that progress. That feeling is so much better than the pleasure you get from video games, movies, whatever it is for you. Scrolling, it's a big thing as well. You know, and I tried to just start with like little habits or whatever, but I found myself like there was too much strength and too much momentum into the negative that I just found myself like, there's not really much point just taking a little cold shower. There's not much point in me just doing this bodyweight workout that'll take 15 minutes or whatever. There's not much point in me walking, and I don't really feel like walking, you know, I don't feel like walking, I don't feel like doing these kind of things. And like, listen to how I'm saying this, I don't feel like doing these kind of things. And it's so easy to get caught in this cycle and just say, oh, I'm just going to do what feels good. But if you keep doing what feels good, that's what's led you into this place of feeling bad, of clicking on this video and trying to find an answer and a way out. And that's not, you can't get out of a situation with the same mindset that got you there, basically. I kind of rephrased whatever the quote that was, you know, you can't think yourself out of the consciousness with the same level that brought you there, whatever that quote is, you know. I think you understand what I'm trying to say. You have to change your mind, you have to change your thoughts, you have to change your behaviours, and as you do this, this influences how you see yourself, the beliefs that you have about yourself. And you just got to stick to it, you just got to stick to this path, you know, and try not to perpetuate this negative cycle, because continuing to do these things further reinforces this identity in yourself, further reinforces this seeking of pleasure rather than fulfillment, rather than depth, rather than connection. And you know, you've got to kind of be wary, like, what kind of values do I want? Like, I love just this idea of just working on soccer, of just like being dedicated to some sort of physical craft and doing it day after day and just seeing progress in it and just becoming, like, refining the physical aspect of it. You know, that's what really kind of drives me a lot. You know, we've got to cut it out at the source, because all these negative thoughts, all these negative patterns are only serving us to further perpetuate this kind of cycle, this adverse slump that we're in. And, you know, all these negative thoughts that come up, you know, it's like your soul crying. You know, like that feeling when you're just playing video games and you're just kind of staring at, like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? I feel so shit. I should be doing more. These things, there's these goals that I want, but I'm not quite sure how to get them. But I feel drawn to them, and I kind of want to do it. And it feels good this moment to do it. And I'm like, oh yes, maybe I will change. But then you don't end up actually following through the behaviours and the actions and the thoughts. So that's why my plan forward is just to create a plan and stick to it as best as I can, and just brainwash my brain, basically, to have good, better thoughts, to have more productive thoughts, you know, like, I can overcome this. Focusing on things that I can control. I can control my efforts, I can control where I put my attention, I can control my environment to help me set up for success, those kind of things. And, you know, sometimes, I just want to finish with this idea that sometimes we just need to break, you know. Sometimes we need a break so then we can see things in a different light. We can further get clarity on the things that actually matter to us, that are actually, like, important to us, and that mean a lot to us. And maybe we just need a reminder that, like, going down this path, doing the things that we were doing before, the mindsets that we had before, wasn't actually serving us, was actually leading us to somewhere we didn't want to go. You know, like, my kind of half-baked mindset was just like, oh, just gonna kind of get through this, do a little bit of YouTube, you know, start back, you know, I might do a couple videos. But now it's like, no, I've got to do a video a week, I've got to continue doing this creating, I've got to stick to this path, because otherwise, if I don't give myself like this kind of strict deadline, this kind of, you have to do this, you have to kind of stick to this, because it's best for you, because it's what you actually want. I'm just going to kind of go off the rails and go like, oh, it's alright if I eat a little bit, it's alright if I play a little bit of video games here and there. And that's exactly what kind of gets me into this kind of numb kind of cycle. But, you know, all of these kind of experiences have led me here to be having this talk right now, which is something that probably needed to happen, because I don't think anyone's documenting this like I'm documenting it or talking about it whilst they're in it. Not many people are in this state and they're talking about it, and then they're saying this is how I plan to get out. And I think it's just invaluable, and it'll be crazy just to look back on this and see the progress that I've made or the mistakes that I was making, the ideas that I had that were false or whatever. Just refining this, constantly refining. Anyway, so this idea that sometimes we need to break, there's this kind of Japanese, I'm sure you've heard of it, this Japanese pottery thing where it's called kintsugi, and a literal translation is golden repair. Just how beautiful is that golden repair? Sometimes there's like beauty in your broken parts, and sometimes they just have this in the wrong direction. Maybe some things were just kind of made to kind of break, and it did break, but there's this kind of hope, this golden repair that things can be better, that there can be beauty in our kind of darker points. And another point that I want to make is that everything has a positive and a negative. The thing that drives me to play video games or to eat junk food or whatever is because I'm sensitive, is because I want accomplishment, I want to have structure, I want to win at something, I want to be great at something, I want to have something kind of work out. I like ideas of like strategy and these kind of things. And those are positive things that come from something that could be negative. There's like two sides of it, and you've got to find out these strengths, find out these whys, and try to apply them to things that are going to be more beneficial for your life. Like just science-wise with this dopamine thing that I'm talking about, it's like chasing slower dopamine kind of activities that are going to give you this kind of slow burn, make you feel better about your life, make you feel better about yourself, and return your kind of levels to be more sensitive to pleasure in the simpler things. So I think I've quite talked your ear off by now. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave any comments if you have like any ideas of what could change, or if you want to see my videos a bit different or whatever. Thank you for watching. If you did reach the end, I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.